Hello friends, welcome to the Eerie Fairy Tales, or welcome back. My name is Letty, and today we're going to have 13 horror books that you can read in a day. Now, I have been sticking with 200 pages or less for my classic and sci-fi recommendations. However, there are a couple exceptions with these, but they're pretty close, so I'm going to go ahead and include them. Now, I've had a migraine on and off all day, but I just need to get this done, so if I seem a little different, that's why. But anyway, let's get into it. And book number 1 is Midnight Companions. This is issue number 1 by Luke Flaherty and the artist Nathaniel Hubert. This is 91 pages. I read this in September, so I will have that wrap up linked below. And in this, we have a group of friends that like to scare each other with scary stories. And there is an abandoned house that they tell a story about. But they can actually go to this house because it's in their neighborhood. So they go there to continue telling these scary stories. And, well, let's just say the scary story turns into something real. This is really unique and fun, a little gross, kind of like Grady Hendrix a little bit, like a pocket-sized Grady Hendrix, if you will. And this has really cool illustrations as well. And it definitely will give you those nostalgic 80s vibes. I'll show you one of the creepy illustrations here, and another one. I highly recommend this. 5-star all-time favorite. And book number 2 is Goddess of Filth by V. Castro. This is 141 pages. I read this in July, so I'll have that wrap up linked below. And this is like The Craft, but make it Mexicana. We have a group of friends who hold a seance, and they're not really taking things too seriously, but then one of their friends starts crawling around and chanting in the ancient Aztec language. And then over the next few weeks, she starts acting really weird and doing kind of gross things. And then the priest, their local priest, thinks that it's some kind of demon and that she needs to have an exorcism. But then one of her friends thinks, no, it's actually something a bit more ancient and more powerful. And book number 3 is actually more of a short story. This is The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn. It's 62 pages. This is the special Book of the Month edition. It's like a gift, I guess, that they gave out. I got this at Half Price Books, though. And in this, we follow a psychic who is used to scamming people. And she meets a lady who thinks that her Victorian home is haunted and that her stepson is possessed. Now, at first, the psychic just thinks that she's some wealthy woman who's bored and needs to add some drama to her life. But then once she makes a visit to the home, she decides, oh, maybe she doesn't need to pretend that ghosts exist anymore. And book number 4 is The Pale House Devil by Richard Kadrey. This is 115 pages. I read this in November, so I will have that wrap up linked below. And this is a haunted house meets private eye noir with some cosmic horror elements. And we follow a couple mercenaries, one alive and one undead, and they get hired to go investigate a haunted mansion. Well, they end up encountering a creature that they have never discovered before. And something even worse than that. Really dark, deep secrets that the house and the family has possessed. This is a bit of a trippy one. And book number 5 is Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. This is 131 pages. I read this in July, so I will have that wrap up linked below. And in this, we follow a group of friends who like to play pranks on each other. And one of them works in a movie theater, so they have the idea to put a mannequin in one of the seats. The mannequin just becomes alive and starts killing people. Now, I was not a huge fan of what was really going on in this book, but I can't say anything, otherwise it'll spoil it. However, I'm still mentioning it here because a lot of people are fans of Stephen Graham Jones, and really, I think that this would be a good book club pick because of the discussion you could have from it. And book number 6 is Cirque Berserk by Jessica Guest. This is 167 pages. And I meant to read this in October, but I couldn't squeeze it in. Unfortunately, this does look like a fun one. Well, as fun as a slasher could be, I guess. This is a slasher set at a circus in the 80s, so you have all those nostalgic 80s vibes. Even the parts are titled with 80s songs like I Want to Dance with Somebody, for example. So back in '89, there was a group of teens that killed a dozen people and then they just disappeared. Nobody knows what happened to them. And then you fast forward 30 years, there's a group of friends going to Cirque Berserk to go see if this urban legend is true or not. Well, they find out not only is it true, but that it's happening again. And book number 7 is Slasher Witch at the Water Park by Penny Moons. This is 156 pages. And in this we have a water park that has a grand opening. It ends up awakening Zelda from her ancient slumber. And she stinks, she's covered in sludge, and security asks her to leave. Well, she throws quite the fuss about it, and fuss as in the massacre begins. And the water park comes to life with rides that kill. And Penny put kind of a funny preface in here, so I'll read it to you. This is a really stupid fun book. If you don't like stupid humor, please go no further. For the ones who continue, you're in for a real treat. I haven't read this yet, but if you've read it, let me know what you think. I think I forgot to mention that Zelda is a bog witch. So yeah, she's a bog witch. And book number 8 is We Need to Do Something by Max Booth III. This is 156 pages. This will be in my September wrap-up link below in case you missed it. And in this, we follow a family on the verge of self-destruction. They find themselves isolated in their bathroom during a tornado warning. Now, things get more and more unhinged, chaotic, disturbing, and then you find out just why there is a tornado. This is a trippy one. I said the wrong page count again. It's 152 pages, not 156. And book number 9 is A House at the Bottom of a Lake by Josh Malerman, and this is 188 pages. This book takes place over the course of a summer. We follow 2 young adults who are going on a first date, and they want to do something a little different, so they figure they will go canoeing and have a picnic. Well, they end up finding a house at the bottom of a lake, and they dive down there and they realize, oh, they can have something all their own. Or is it all their own? Now, will they swim deeper into the house or up to the surface for safety? Whatever they do, they'll never be able to turn their back on what they discovered. And book number 10 is Sweet Blood by Pete Houtman, 180 pages. And I read this in August, so that wrap-up will be linked below. In this, we follow 16-year-old Lucy, and she thinks that she's undead, or according to her own theory about vampires anyway. She thinks that vampires with pale skin, long teeth, and uncontrollable thirst were actually just dying diabetics because she's a diabetic herself. Then she becomes involved with someone who claims to be a real vampire in an online chat room. She ends up meeting them in person, and she gets caught up going to late night parties and getting involved in the goth subculture. And then it starts causing problems with her life, with her grades, with her health, with her relationships. So she realizes that she has a choice to make, but it may be too late. Sorry, these lights are kind of washing out the cover. This is purple, like a dark purple, and then the lips, this is actually red right here. And then this is pink. I do have a ring light, so hopefully in my next couple videos I'll finally get that set up. And book number 11 is Full Tilt by Neil Shusterman, and this is 201 pages, so just 1 page over, not too bad. This I read in August, so that wrap-up will be linked below. And this we follow a 16-year-old and his younger brother, and they are total opposites. The older brother is cautious and responsible. The younger brother is reckless and a thrill seeker. They get invited to and attend this bizarre phantom carnival. But in order to leave, the older brother has to ride 7 deadly rides, each of which represents a deep personal fear, and ultimately he has to face a horrible secret from his past in order to save himself and his younger brother. And they have to do all of this before dawn, or they'll be trapped there forever. This book explores grief, guilt, loss, regret, fear. It is surreal and suspenseful and thought-provoking. And book number 12 is perfect for this time of year, and that is Christmas at Wheeldale Inn by Gemma Amor. This is 114 pages, and this was recommended by Jason over at Jason's Weird Read, so I will link his channel below. in this book, it's Christmas Eve, and we have a horse-drawn carriage that is battling its way through a really bad snowstorm. And in the carriage is a formerly well-to-do couple. However, they are fleeing London under the threat of jail because the mister has been imprudent with their family finances and they've gone into debt. The weather worsens and the carriage overturns, and they find themselves out in the freezing storm, lost, injured, and penniless. And they somehow stumble upon the Wheeldale Inn. And this is an isolated and peculiar public house. And the innkeeper seems welcoming enough, but there are really strange things going on there. And all is not what it seems. And there they will have to confront who they really are in terrifying ways. And the last book, book number 13, is Moon of the Crusted Snow by Wabgashig Rice. This is 213 pages, so just a little over that 200-page mark. I found this on Amazon through the half-price bookseller, and I got a signed copy, so I was lucky to find that. And this is going to be the third book that I'm reading in that themed reading vlog, so I'm going to be reading At the Mountains of Madness and Who Goes There, and then Moon of the Crusted Snow. And in this book, we are set in an Anishinaabe community, and that community, according to Google, is primarily around the Great Lakes area in Canada, but it can run from Ottawa all the way down to Oklahoma in the US. And we are in the very beginning of winter, and all of a sudden this community loses power and all communication with no foreseeable resolution. And then unexpected visitors arrive, and they are escaping a crumbling society. Tensions arise and allegiances are divided. And as the harsh winter months pass slowly, their food supply dwindles, and the death toll and panic rises. But the greatest threat to survival may come from within the community itself. I've heard that this is a slow burn, atmospheric read, and a lot of people really love it, so I'm excited to read it for myself. Okay, friends, that will do it for my 13 horror books that you can read in a day. A couple were technically over 200 pages, but I think you could still read them pretty quickly. So I hope you've enjoyed my books you can read in a day videos. The first one being the classics, which had a feature appearance of my 2 kitty cats, and then the sci-fi books that you can read in a day. Thank you so much for watching. I wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate, or if you don't, I just wish that you have a great day. And I know that this time of year can be difficult for some people, so if that is you, then I hope that you can at least find some sort of peace. And thank you again so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.